In the timeless echo of creation, where gods and mortals shared the same breath, a name was forged in fire and prophecy: Achilles. He was born of a goddess and a king, a bridge between the heavens and the earth. His mother, Thetis, fearing the mortal blood that flowed in his veins, sought to defy fate itself. She carried him to the river Styx, the sacred waters that promised invincibility, and dipped her infant son into its swirling obsidian currents. She held him by a single point, his heel, and in that loving, desperate grip she sealed his destiny. The water blessed his skin, turning it to impenetrable armor, harder than any shield forged by man. But the small part of him she held, the part untouched by the divine river, remained mortal, fragile, and human. Achilles grew into a legend, a living myth. His hair shone like the sun, and his eyes held the fury of a storm. On the battlefield he was a force of nature, a whirlwind of bronze and fury. Spears shattered against his skin, swords glanced off him as if striking stone. He moved with the grace of a god and the might of a titan. Kings trembled at his name, and armies scattered before his charge. He was the greatest warrior the world had ever known, the lion of the Achaeans, his glory sung in every hall and whispered in every prayer. He seemed invincible, a golden god walking among men, his path paved with victory and adoration. Yet, within this vessel of divine strength, a human heart beat with furious passion. His pride was as vast as the Aegean Sea, a reflection of his unmatched power. He loved fiercely and hated with the same intensity. When his honor was slighted, his rage was a tempest that could shake the foundations of the world. He withdrew from the great Trojan War. His absence felt like the sun vanishing from the sky. The Greeks, once so mighty, faltered and fell, their ships burning, their heroes dying. The weight of an entire war rested upon the shoulders of one man, and his pride held it hostage. It was not for glory or for gold that Achilles returned to the fray. It was for love. The death of his closest companion, Patroclus, shattered his world. Grief, raw and absolute, consumed him. The invincible warrior wept, his sorrow a river deeper than the Styx. He donned his celestial armor, a gift from the gods themselves, and unleashed a storm of vengeance upon the plains of Troy. He became death incarnate, his grief a weapon more terrible than any spear. He sought out Hector, the prince of Troy, the man who had taken his friend, and their duel was a clash of titans, a tragedy written in blood and dust. Achilles triumphed, but his victory was hollow. He had avenged his friend, but the emptiness in his soul remained. He had proven his might, yet he felt only his own mortality. In his moment of greatest rage and sorrow, he stood before the gates of Troy, a solitary figure against a city of enemies. And it was there, in the chaos of battle, that fate, so long held at bay, finally found its mark. An arrow, guided not by skill, but by divine will, soared through the air. It was a simple, humble weapon, fired by a prince who was not a great warrior, but who knew the hero's secret. The arrow struck Achilles in the one place he was vulnerable, his heel, the point of contact between a mother's love and a mortal's destiny. The divine protection, so absolute, was breached by the smallest of margins. The invincible hero stumbled. The godlike warrior felt a pain he had never known. The world around him seemed to slow, the sounds of battle fading into a distant hum. He fell to his knees not with the crash of a falling statue, but with the quiet surrender of a mortal man. In that final moment, looking out at the world he had so fiercely dominated, he was no longer a legend, but simply a man, undone by the one part of him that remained untouched by the gods. His death was not just the end of a hero. It was a profound and timeless lesson. It speaks to us across the ages, a whisper from eternity. We all strive for strength, for invincibility. We build walls around our hearts, armor our souls, and present a face of unshakable power to the world. We chase glory, success, and perfection, hoping to become untouchable, to rise above the fragile nature of our existence. We hide our vulnerabilities, ashamed of the parts of us that are soft, uncertain, and human. Like Thetis, we try to dip ourselves in a river of strength, hoping to wash away our weaknesses. But Achilles' story reminds us that our true essence lies not in our invincibility, but in our vulnerability. That small, unprotected heel was not just his weakness. It was his connection to humanity. It was the source of his profound love, his devastating grief, and his ultimate fate. It was the anchor that kept the demigod tied to the mortal world, allowing him to feel, to love, and to suffer. Our weaknesses, our fears, our sorrows, these are not flaws to be hidden. They are the gateways to our deepest emotions, our greatest compassion, and our most authentic selves. It is in our fragility that our true strength is forged. It is in accepting our mortal limitations that we find our spiritual freedom. The cracks in our armor are where the light gets in, where grace can touch us, and where we can truly connect with one another. To be human is to have an Achilles heel. Perhaps we have many. They are the parts of us that have been wounded, the parts that remain tender. But they are also the parts that allow us to love with courage, to feel with depth, and to live with meaning. Do not be afraid of your vulnerability. Do not be ashamed of your mortal heart. For it is in that sacred, unprotected space that your greatest story will be written. It is there that you will find not the end of your strength, but the beginning of your rebirth. For even the greatest hero is defined not by how he lived without weakness, but by the humanity he found within it. The light is never truly lost. It shines brightest from the parts of us we once believed were broken. Thank you for joining us in this story. Subscribe to God Story Reborn, and together, let us continue to explore the tales of light and rebirth.